How did your world handle such an incredible threat?
It wasn't until we stumbled upon an enchanted sword that we realized we even had a chance.
Oh my gosh, is that it?
A wizard found it in the Rift's temple. Trunks! Here.
For keeps?
Yeah, it's yours, brother. I think it always has been.
Wow, thank you!
The Logos. Many of you have heard this word before, but what exactly is the Logos? How did the Logos actually create all of creation and us? And why is it our greatest weapon? Our only weapon? And all we ever need? Stay tuned. Scriptures state we are to have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead to expose it. The Logos, also known as the sword of the Spirit, is the only piece of the armor of God that is offensive, an offensive weapon as well as defensive. The two-sided sword of the Spirit protrudes out of the mouth of the righteous, and with it brings fire and glory to those who wield it. We are the peacekeepers and the advocates of truth, those who profess Jesus Christos as the glorious master of all, which he is. Every religion, every culture, every secret society, in its deepest root and core, does honor Jesus Christos, but it twists it to serve the false gods and their narratives. This Logos, this spirit of truth, this righteousness, this comes not only from understanding oneself, one's place in the universe, and the scriptures, But we are awarded this power to destroy our enemies with the fire it presents. When I speak, sometimes the words I say are very triggering to those who are caught in the darkness. And so too with all of you who speak the truth. You know what I mean. For some reason, the words we speak, which are to give life and enhance meaning and abundance to those who are around us, are taken completely out of context, and instead of being welcomed for what they are often heavily retaliated against. Why is that? The reason is because the truth and the righteousness which we are speaking can often be contrary to how people live and the illusions that they are trapped in. The illusions which, when a person is not diligently seeking the truth themselves, take precedence over their whole lives. The truth is seen more as a hindrance, an offense, an abomination to their lifestyle. And indeed, living in darkness and having such unfruitful works, the only thing that those people can do, those egotistical ones, the prideful, the adulterers, the murderers, those who are living in unrighteousness, the only thing they can do is run, flee, or be burned. And here's the thing about fire. If you are not fire, the fire will burn you. But if you are fire, if you are the Holy Spirit, it does not burn you. It cleanses you so that you can burn and shine more brightly. For all eternity, your glory will be present. And the only thing you'll ever need to defend yourself is the Logos, the sword of the Spirit. It cuts down any foe that's trapped within the darkness, any lie, any illusion. It will slice in two. And then incinerate the ashes. Those whose primary truth is based off lie, they will fight to defend that truth to their dying breath, even if that truth is false. Because that's all they ever know. It takes humility, humbleness, and accountability to look within yourself, the dark night of the soul, and realize that we are our own darkness. At the same time, we are our own light, as with the light of the Lord who is within us. The analogy of the two wolves within man, one good, one evil, that is present within the Aboriginal culture, speaks that these two wolves fight for dominance over the heart of mankind. Which one wins depends on which one you feed. The Logos, the sword of the Spirit, does not hurt or kill those who are living in spirit, in righteousness. It only cuts the darkness and purifies souls. It is a two-edged sword, because this sword, unspoken, even though full of life, does cut, does sting. Some may not take lightly to it due to what I have just mentioned, being allied with darkness and deceptions of this world. But I tell you that before anything ever existed, it was decreed. It was decreed by spiritual truth, spiritual truth that permeates this entire existence and universe that even science cannot deny. Why? Because you cannot deny the fundamental base of all reality when you live in the reality that's created. To deny it would simply deny your reality as it is. But the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, everything point towards the fact that this is a created construct. We are in a creation. Nothing is accidental, nothing is random. Even Darwinism has been already debunked. There will never be a missing link because our history proves that mankind was created. We did not evolve naturally on this earth. Many cultures have their own story of creation. The oldest being the Sumerian texts of 345,000 years or so, where the Anunnaki came, the Elohim, and created man in their image and likeness, using their I am and decreeing it with their logos. They created us to serve them, and they used the genetic material from themselves, combining it with the existing hominids of the earth to create mankind. I will go in more detail into that later on. But the point I'm trying to say here is that the spirit of truth, which is present in the Logos and the I Am, these truths are like the sun, moon, and stars. You can hide them for a short time, but not forever, because they fundamentally exist. And they will always prevail because reality is based upon them. But to those who live in the darkness of illusion and the lies, you can only fight to defend that lie for so long before you realize it has all come to naught. How long will it be before you realize that these works are unfruitful? Will it be on your deathbed, when you no longer have a choice to repent and change? At that point, it's too late. Even though forgiveness is still present, your soul will not ascend in that state. There is much work and time that needs to be dedicated towards repentance, towards recovering, towards change. This is something you can do only when you're alive. Only when you're alive, because as we live in this time realm, confined to the aspects of time in this dimension, you require time in order to make change. So the most crucial, the most powerful thing that can change lives in anyone's lives is the Logos, the spoken word of creation, which has the power to penetrate people's lives, change how they think, how they view lives, and how they have responsibility for themselves. My people perish for lack of knowledge, said the Lord. And it's true. For lack of knowledge, people make choices which they do not truly understand the consequences of. When you're led by lower impulses, lower desires, incomplete truths, you will build, using that, an unfruitful life, which may bear fruit physically and materially, but you will never truly be happy within. You'll never truly have your sense of purpose. You'll never truly see the value of existence. When life is all based off the material, when that material leaves you, what do you have? The Logos, the sword of the Spirit, is meant to cut through the darkness, the illusions, the veil that separate man, that separate our species from each other. Cut through the veil of ignorance and darkness with the illumination of light which is knowledge. The light of knowledge and the light of truth sets free all those who hear it, if they can take it. Because first, it will infuriate and piss off those who are not in alignment with it. Their allegiance is not to the light, it is to the darkness. Therefore, they fight to defend their master. They fight to defend the Lord of all lies. And a lot of the times, it's not entirely their fault that they're in that state. They were deceived into it, as with all of mankind. You were deceived by the political powers that be, by religious institutions that profess to teach divine truth and morality and God, and indeed they do to a point. However, it is the understanding of man and the interpretation of those scriptures which fundamentally limits their effectiveness, and at the same time too, the religions dedicated to the false gods, speaking this divine truth and knowledge, although they claim to be seeking to benefit mankind, many of them seek only to gain followers, to gain worship for their false gods. Their false gods who are mighty and powerful, and without actually knowing your I am, the I am in you, the true Lord and Creator, and without having the Logos, the sword of the Spirit, you will not be able to prevail. But know this when I tell you, he who is within us is greater than he who is within the world. And it is by him that he gives us the armor of God and the sword of the Spirit, which we are to put on and prepare for war. And if we are to have true peace, that can only come after the great separation, after our hearts have true conversation with each other. Any peace that is built with an underlying essence of hostility will not last. It won't last, it's just a cover-up. The things that you see going on in this world are a temporary peace in a time where escalating war is relevant. You cannot rule by fear alone. But reverence is not merely fear, but a high degree of respect and love for the God that not only rules all things as its sovereign, but looks after you and cares for you. And those of you who doubt this, you simply don't know his ways. And you don't know the enemy in the world. Not everything that feels good is good. Temptation comes to lead you astray from the path of truth and righteousness and knowledge of self. It teaches you to go by what you feel and not seek wisdom, not seek understanding about what is. It has been said to you that the only way you get anything in life is through sacrifice. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. Everything costs something. It's not always money. Some things require your time and your dedication. Everything you do requires an equal commitment from you. So if you are prevented from seeking the truth, from seeking the kingdom, and doing it first, those in power, the powers that be, stay on top of the world because they elicit your aid and your help by appealing to your lower desires and what seems right and what feels right to you at that time. But as long as humanity is imperfect and growing, you will find that throughout your life you will change a lot of things if you are on the path of growth. You'll change your friend circle, you'll change your thought process, you'll change all the people around you. Your reality itself will shift as you change your mind. As the scriptures state, Be refreshed by the renewing of your mind. This is a part of the Logos, the sword of the Spirit which cuts through illusions, the illusions that we believe that hold us back. When abolished, we are suddenly set free to grow. We suddenly have a much wider jurisdiction in this universe. We are suddenly more free. And it doesn't matter about material riches. Those simply become a means to an end. Those simply expand us so that we can better help the world. But those by themselves are not the way. You've seen in your own world what happens when the wealthy, the greedy, who do not have interest in the state of humanity, who don't see each other as they see themselves, come to power. Everything they do is for political reign. Everything they do is to maintain that power. They will lie, cheat, steal, deceive in order to maintain that power. And who can you really trust in the political world when they all serve the same master? The God of this world. A false God. The demiurge. The false I am. And his Logos.
Super Saiyan. I'm impressed. To encounter a fighter of your caliber is a rare occurrence indeed. But it does present quite an opportunity. You see, I can appreciate great talent such as yours. My eyes are not blinded by pride like my sons were. Join me and take Frieza's place at my side as the supreme ruler of the universe.
Not a chance.
Now don't be too hasty. Imagine, this and every other world would be but the merest of baubles in your collection. Playthings for your amusement, subject to your every whim. No? Alright, but grant me this. Allow me to examine your sword. A weapon of such obvious quality practically begs to be admired. You have nothing to fear from me.
So, you want to see my sword, huh? Here, catch. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Remarkable craftsmanship. And I have a hunch that you would not have defeated my son were it not for this sword. What do you say?
Believe what you want to.
All right then, I will. I say that without this sword you're nothing. That's what I believe.
So much for your theory. You should know that a weapon doesn't make the man.
Wait, you dirty little
First Frieza, now him. Oh man, who is this kid?
Wait, you can't. No, please. I'm defenseless. Please, I'm not bad. My son was evil, but not I. I wanted nothing but peace. I let you know how. I swear it.
Wow, just like that. Bam, they're gone.
a sweat.
Yeah, let's just hope he doesn't decide to come after us.
Yes, as all of us have a connection to the I Am, we all have the Logos. But is that the true Logos? It's as much true as it is your I Am is true. For the I Am not has a false Logos. That Logos is not genuine. All it does is deceive. There's no substance, no nourishment in the words. And without proper discernment, you will fall prey to this false positivity. Yes, I say false positivity. Not all positivity out there is positive. And indeed, not all negative out there is negative. But rather, perception is what determines reality. For many of you who live in truth, breathe in truth, and you are truth, you've observed that your positive truth, which is meant to be the light of the world, is often retaliated against rather than embraced and cherished as it deserves. Your positivity, your light, is seen as darkness by those who are in darkness. And to them, darkness is their light. Flattery is their light, while they go about and gossip behind people's backs. Lies are their light, for they choose not to be accountable to their own deeds. They like to sweep things under the rug and not observe. Many people out there like to compartmentalize their inner issues, choosing instead not to deal with it. Out of sight, out of mind. But I tell you this, those things compound. And if you yourself are powerful, how much more is the darkness that you carry, which you've been saving up and accumulating, that you will have to deal with at some point if you want to ascend. Best not to let it accumulate. The Logos is here to free you from this cage of illusion, and I am that Logos. This word has existed before this body ever has, and it is by God's command and God's power that it even has power. I speak to that which is within you. Your inner essence and divine calling rests on your ability to conquer the darkness which has taken over the bodies of mankind and us through these deceptions, through these false ideologies, through these idols, through this worship that is falsely given. You've been told that all religions lead to God. This is only partially true. All religions have an element to God, but there is only one way. And all true religions speak of this way, but they themselves are not the way. Indeed, the more true that a religion is, the more in harmony it is with the one true way. And that way is the seed of creation, the divine spark, which without it, none would exist, including the Elohim, which, when translated, some might say means the mighty ones, but I go by the actual translation of what it means. It means the sons of God. The sons of God, that is what that word actually means. And all the Elohim that come here, they can only be one or the other. They can be with God or they can be a rebel. And the rebels who are cast out and cast down here being divine beings, are mightier than lowly humans. However, humanity was created to ascend beyond them and inherit God's kingdom. Obviously, this is not desired by the evil forces that be the fallen angels. So they try to crush the logos, they try to crush the way, the truth, and the life in any aspect, wherever they can find it. But it is inevitable that the Son of Man, prophesied to come, will rise against them and use the power of the logos, the spoken, manifested word of God, to fundamentally expose their idealism and their false doctrines that they are using to enslave mankind, to expose the false miracles that they perform in order to wow and awe mankind into serving and worshiping them. All true cultures in this earth, all true religions in this earth, if you look into it, will advocate for celibacy, semen retention, as ways of spiritual growth and discipline and getting closer to the divine. Why is that? It's because this is a part of the sacred ritual of Jesus Christos, the divine seed, the sacred secretion that our bodies produce, which when saved up, rise through the 33 vertebrae of the spine, crucified in the land of the skull, known as Golgotha, and on the third day rise, and that is the enlightenment of mankind. The secret of the Ark of the Covenant is the brain. That is where God has inscribed his laws. That is where the power of God is. Not merely some stone tablets, even though those stone tablets have divine power. That was instilled by the true Ark of the Covenant, which is not material. It is the God mind, which is the true Ark. And in the mind and in the heart does he inscribe his commandments. Commandments, when adhered to and lived by, promote you in spirit, in truth, and make your body a habitable temple for the living God, for him to work through you and live in you and greatly enrich your life and cause you to prosper in ways that you could never believe. Give you such a sense of peace that no matter what's happening to you and whatever turmoil and tribulation you go through, you will not depart from the path of truth. Why? Because you realize that all this material substance and everything in here is merely a passing illusion. And what happens to all of this when you die? You don't get to take any of that with you. Indeed, when the pharaohs and the kings used to save up their riches and put them in the tomb, the reason why they did that was because they believed that someday they would be reincarnated in the same flesh and they would have all those things again. But they believed that because they believed in the everlasting spirit, the journey to the underworld and the afterlife. So while they stocked material riches and the kings ruled by wealth, their society, deeply inspired and raised up by the fallen angels, the Egyptian gods, was deeply spiritual in nature, having that knowledge brought to them by divine beings. Now, where those beings came from, I will go into another video about the history of the Anunnaki and their coming to Earth and the Atlantis and Lemuria civilizations, which were the first civilizations of which these Elohim, these Anunnaki, ruled from. We can get into the other races as well, but primarily all these sources of wisdom and knowledge, all these texts which talk about these old gods, these great men of old, all these stories from the past, they are all inspired truth. And in this day and age, you see these things in your movies, like the story of Asgard, Thor, Loki, and all those gods, those Norse gods, Nordic gods. What you don't know is that all these beings actually existed, and there are scriptures talking about all of them. And these scriptures are hidden from you. But when you study them all, you realize a genetic lineage, a chronology, an order in which these gods were born, and what they did and what they governed in this earth. Unless you view the whole thing together as a whole, parts of the story are always incomplete because you just pick up the story from the middle of the story and then read a little bit and you don't see the end. That's how it is when you don't look at the society and life as a whole. If you're only reading from one book, 2 books, 3 books, you're only getting a part of the story. Many of you don't know about Kronos, but he was one of the first sons of God. The one who's in charge of time and one of the creators of man. Indeed, he was also called the devil and Satan at times. Many of them were called that. And some of them are actual representations of the true I Am. Now the Logos that I'm speaking to you, it has the ability to dissolve all these illusions. But it in itself, as much as it burns, as much as it stings, as much as it purifies, it doesn't do all the work for you. It doesn't do all the work for your companions. After the death caused by the Logos, the resurrection must occur. And for the resurrection to occur, the person who you've slain with this word of divine truth, they must have the will to rise. They must have the will to overcome and be better and ascend and reclaim their divine authority. They must realize that they have fallen and earnestly want to repent and earnestly seek the Lord and the truth and the kingdom of God. It is at that time they shall have their resurrection. They shall have their second chance. Because without these things, death is all there is. When people's ideologies die, those people will die with them because they choose to take them to the grave. They choose to follow them into hell. The false doctrines spread by these fallen angels who were condemned to hell. What some of you don't know is that hell was never actually designed for humans. Humans were not supposed to go to hell. Humans aren't supposed to be in Sheol. Sheol was designed to house the fallen angels. However, through the deceptions and the ideologies planted by the fallen angels into humanity, humanity goes where their masters are. And those who serve these false ideologies and these false gods, you will go to where your masters are. And that is the pit of despair, where they have been sentenced for the evil they had brought upon humanity. It is by their doing that they divided the earth, conquered the earth, subdued it, and started to war with each other. And they caused man to rise up and take arms against other man. They caused all this war, all this fighting. Yes, it is the deception which was given to mankind through them that caused them to be brainwashed. And your lack of understanding of the Logos, the Christos, is the reason why we can't truly fight back. This is a war that we do not fight with weapons. Weapons don't conquer it. You can go and you can kill somebody for what they believe in, but that doesn't stop that belief. Somebody else will take that up and continue that false belief. You win this war against the ideologies and principalities by using the Logos to crush those ideologies, those false beliefs, so that they never again can hold a foothold in human hearts. Never again can they lure you into temptation and into evil. This requires submitting to the divine will as if it is you, your highest self. Because I'll tell you, it is. You are but a piece of God. Neither of us, none of us, none of any of us are God in His entirety, but we are all pieces of Him. And when we work together as a functioning society, we are a functioning body of God. His body is this world. And right now, the body of this world is the body of a false God, a fallen God, one who has taken this kingdom by force. And we should use the Logos and not military arms, not nuclear warheads, in order to battle this. This battle has been going on for thousands of years, many, many thousands of years, which mankind has lost many times, and we have been wiped out, but we survived, and we continue. Indeed, the corruption of mankind had become so horrible in the past that God lamented and He regretted creating mankind, which He loved. Think about the kind of pain we caused to our Creator, living such immoral, cruel lives of wickedness and injustice against each other, under the guidance of the fallen angels, the Bene Elohim, and their sons, the Nephilim. These giants, which are recorded in history, but had been abolished from history. Their artifacts found everywhere, their bodies have been found, but all this is being hidden from you. Because if this were to be exposed, it would validate scriptural truth, and in essence call everything they're telling you to believe into question. Once you realize that the scriptural truth given to us in these books from our ancestors are there to elevate us and liberate us, you will develop an intense passion to pursue the truth. And nothing of this world will satisfy you. No movie, no sports game, no appetite of the flesh. All these things are fleeting. You will yearn for the knowledge of truth and understanding, knowing that it is this only that can liberate us. This is the Logos, the word of truth, the word of creation. When I speak this word to you, I am the bread of life, and through my spirit, my progress, my understanding, my ascension, I break a piece off to feed to you through my words, and it will cause you to ascend to where I am without having to suffer tribulation, without having to take the time necessary to discover this on your own. That is the power of the Logos. By speaking, we share knowledge, we share wisdom with each other, and at the same time too, this power is a double-sided sword. When we speak lies to each other, false witness, we deceive the masses as well as ourselves, and this creates terrible things in life for us that are based off nothing but death. Why? Because those are not truths which have been spoken, and eventually those things must pass away. That is the truth. The truth is that only the truth will last and live forever. All lies eventually die. So if we are aligned with those lives, in how we live our lives, how we think, death comes for mankind. And indeed, it was appointed to every man to die once. However, 2 men have actually escaped this fate and were taken directly to heaven while alive. Do you know who those 2 men are and what their story is? In another video, I'll go into more depth about the story of Enoch and Elijah, the 2 men who had great power from God, who knew God so closely that God took them while they were still alive. The Logos spoke to them, the Logos which came through knowledge, through understanding divine truth. The Lord, if you ever actually look into who the Lord is, one thing you will notice is that none of the scriptures ever speak about God as a person. I know that's contradictory to what you've heard, but hear me out here. Every single commandment teaches how to be godly. And indeed, when God introduced himself to Moses, the name that he used is I am that I am. It is actually an affirmation. It's not like his name was Steve or something like that. He gave Moses an affirmation that when Moses understood, he realized the truth that God is actually within him. And everything that manifested that is God on the outside came from him. And anything on the outside that is God only exists because that being on the outside had the I am within them. God exists as his own principality, as his own laws, the true law. Some people call him Allah, because he is the law, and if you abide by the law, you become the universe. You are the universe. But I tell you this, the universe has law and order. It is not lawless. If you live lawlessly and according to your own will and whim, you are not the universe. You are a fallen universe, and only chaos reigns. Because you need justice, you need righteousness in order to function properly. If your body did not have order and obedience within all your cells, all your organs, there would be cancer, there would be disease, there would be pestilence, there would be every curse that is outlined in the scriptures. Because there is no order and obedience, there's rebellion. And the same thing too with humanity in terms of this world. When we live in rebellion, when we don't heed the power of the Logos' power doesn't come to you. The things you speak will be false, and the things you create will be evil. Because the light of truth is not in you. The light of truth comes from understanding the source of all life, the source of all things, and surrendering to that will, and letting it use your body. When God has your body, no evil force and no false god can enter that body, because that body is his temple, his rightful place, his rightful throne. And it is only with God in your body, in submissiveness, surrendering to God and the divine will, that you can ever achieve the crown chakra. The crown given to the righteous that is prophesied in scriptures to his obedient servants. He said he will give them a crown. This is one of many crowns, but this is the very important first crown that mankind needs to achieve. It is union with the divine. And you cannot have union to the divine when you are following only your own way. and your limited understanding. That is why it says in the scriptures, lean not on your limited human understanding. As human beings, we don't know what's right because we're not coming from ultimate truth. We were born from the dirt. We were born in darkness. We're born with amnesia due to the fall, due to being expelled from the body, where we were formerly Christos, the chrism, the divine seed. But this separation from the inner divine wasn't the end of us. It brought us to this dimension where we can do the Lord's will and eventually go back to the realm of spirit. Let us go back after fulfilling our purpose in this world and doing what we need to see the benefit of humanity and growth, ushering in of the eternal kingdom. Let us create for ourselves and our future civilizations and generations a world that is free from war. And we have to use the Logos to do this. The Logos which crushes all the principalities of war and all the powers behind it. These military organizations, these weapons dealers and manufacturers that are making billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, by deceiving us into killing each other and then selling us the weapons to do it and funding both sides. How are we going to have peace if we can't even take captive our own thoughts and we allow these devils to manipulate our minds into doing these evil things? And yet many protest that these devils are great. Why? Because they bring these pleasures of the earth. How much sense does that really make? Self-sacrifice. No matter what you do, you have to sacrifice something for a greater result. Let us sacrifice that which is evil so that we can have a world that is truly good, as opposed to sacrificing the world that is truly good in favor of the temporary pleasures brought by evil, the in-the-moment passions that cause the destruction of the world and the rest of the life. It's not worth it. How many of you have been lured and tempted into evil, and then upon doing it, realizes that you've ruined something great by pursuing that path? Let's hear your testimonies. Drop them in the comments. And this video is getting kind of long, but this has been an introduction to the sword of the Spirit, which you all must take up and righteously wield. Use it to spread the word of truth and light and illuminate the darkness and bring all souls back to creation. Because it is not the Lord's will to turn from anybody, but rather it is humans who turn away from God. And instead of reaping the benefit of the eternal kingdom, all the glory and riches that come from it, they suffer in this miserable, cruel world, and then they blame God. Well, why did you create this world like this? Blah, blah, blah. God didn't create that world. You created that world. Mankind created that world by rebelling against God, by separating from God's world. I will tell you the truth. We are actually dimensional beings. And if you want to ascend to the other dimensions, the higher dimensions, you have to be of higher mind and higher spirit. Each dimension has laws which it lives by. And each dimension is ethereal. Its emotions, its mentality. The physicality is merely only in this dimension. But every dimension has its own form of physicality. When you look at outer space, it may seem vast, but that's only because we're looking at it from an extremely small perspective. Let me break that down. If you were an atom, how big would the room that you're in right now be from your point of view? If you were an atom, would that not be the size of the entire universe? But for us, at the size that we are as humans, oh, it's only about a few feet. That's not that big of a deal. That's because our perspective is different. Being larger, the size that you are determines your outlook and your view. So to transcend the dimensions, to truly travel through space, you have to be large enough to make the journey. And this is not physical growth that I'm talking about. We traverse the mind and the dimensions using our spirit. And the door is an inner door. And science will not catch up to this until they realize that simple truth. Because when they realize that simple truth, then at that point can you create technology that replicates that truth. Trying to travel from one end of the universe to the other without using an inner door is futile. As futile as it is for an atom to go from one corner of the room to the other corner of the room. In order for such a thing to be even possible, you have to comprehend it in terms of quantum physics, in terms of being in two places at once. And how we do that is by scaling the spirit. Scaling the spirit. And how you achieve that is through morality, righteous living, and surrendering to the divine will, who is you in its highest form. The higher you that is explaining to you how your body works, how your spirit works, and how you develop it to that point. And yet humanity rebels against that knowledge in pursuit of the lower desires. God allows it because he knows eventually you have to return to him, and living as human beings, you're allowed to live as human beings for a time. But if you want to ascend, you have to aspire for what it means to be more than human. Our true humanity as the divine seed. And this logos that I speak to you, which is greater than creation, I literally explained to you how to roam around in the universe and how to enter these other realms. This is the power of the logos and creation. I have created for you a new reality merely by speaking this to you. And those of you who are able to eat this scroll that I am giving to you, the scroll of truth and knowledge, some of you will be able to ascend to these high heights. And although I give it freely, you do not need to pay for any course or anything like that. This knowledge is not free. Simply hearing it isn't going to save you. What saves you is by implementing it, by seeking the divine will and truth, by putting this knowledge to use in your own lives and reaching for God in his throne. Ascend and become the sons and daughters who we were born to be, and not these bond slaves and bond slavery that we were born into. This is turning into a long video, so I'm going to call it here. But no amount of words can ever describe what the Logos is. And there will be another video some other day. I wish you the best, and may you conquer all your struggles. The Logos is with you. Use the divine truth. Your family doesn't understand, but that's okay. You stick to truth, because someday the illusion will vanish and everyone will see what truly is. And those who have lived by it will shine like the stars.